ideas to flow. Steph and Joe are on the go, go, go. Sharing what we know from the classroom to the show. It's Steph and Joe on the go. Innovation, education, moving fast with dedication. Come along, let's start the flow. It's Steph and Joe on the go.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Doug.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Oh my goodness, Steph, it has been a minute since we've done our podcast, hasn't it?
Yeah, we've been a little bit busy.
Oh my goodness. I mean, there was ISTE about a month ago, and then there was the Adobe Innovator Summit. And then right now there is the Google Champions event in Chicago. It has been a busy past 4 weeks. And I know you've been super busy as well. You've done all of those. Some of them virtual, but you've been a part of those and more. How are you doing? Your summer has been just packed.
My summer has been of learning, I feel like, and not really a summer, which I think is okay. I don't know. I enjoy the learning portion and being able to come back to school with a lot of different ideas and inspiration. So I am excited about that, but I'm also kind of like, oh, I didn't really take time to relax.
I think that is kind of a theme in education. You know, like during the school year, we're always go, 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 go. And then we're like, oh, I can't wait for the summer. But during the summer, you're like, ooh, I need to learn about this, or oh, I would love to maybe do this. And so that creativity part of your brain kicks in, and you know, it's what I would call rigorous play. You know, you're doing a lot of work, but it's that fun, playful work, so it doesn't really feel like work. So I think it's really cool when I hear summer teachers like, oh, summer went by so fast, but I learned so much. I'm like, that's a great use of your summer, but I hope you still relaxed a little bit.
Yeah, and I think too for you, Joe, like we've kind of talked about this before, like our jobs have been year round, where you finally got a summer.
Yes, and I don't know what that means. my wife said the same thing. She's like, you have a summer, but you're working every day. I go, I know. I don't know how to relax. I don't know how to stop working.
I know it is hard. It is very, very difficult to relax and take some time for you, but it's definitely needed as well. So something that's definitely needed for educators. So I think you went to the beach, right? A couple times or maybe once.
I went to the beach with my girls. You know, luckily we live in a place in California that we're just about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from cities and lakes and beaches. You know, the only downside is it does get to about 110 during the summer. But other than that, we get a lot of cool, fun stuff we can do. I just always forget to put on sunscreen. So I did leave that beach a lobster for a day. So.
Yeah. And my parents have a pool, so like we go there. We went there a lot this summer, so that was kind of our summer. But starting with this school year, I know Google has announced a pretty big update, it sounded like.
Yeah, at ISTE, they released a huge update, things that people have been asking for a while. Number one, when can we get AI available to students under 18 and under 13? And now it's available, right? So they now have the option for your school administrator to turn on the Gemini tools. So you can have Gemini work with the kids. You can have Notebook LM now, which I think is Google's golden goose. I mean, I'm in love with that program. And then GEMS, you know, for personalized, you know, AI discussions. And they're all available. And they're available through Google Classroom as well very shortly. So I'm excited about that. But Steph, there's one thing I'm concerned about, and we've talked about it before. What do you think the one thing I'm concerned about with all these new updates?
Well, first thing should be, you know, students' privacy and like their data, you know, is it safe? But then also the chat history.
Yes, chat history is key. And in my opinion, chat history in real time. It's very important. And I've actually done tests on this. So of course I've used School AI because School AI has a really great, robust data system. where we can see how the kids are doing and what they're saying. And what I did was I went into a sixth grade class and I told one sixth grade class that I can see everything they're doing. So let's stay on track and let's be focused. And another class, I just said, this is the activity, let's do it. And oh my goodness, I was extremely surprised to see that the class who I didn't tell I could see everything, they were just going, they were going off the rails. They were going off task. They were, you know, some of them were making fun of the AI. Maybe some were being mean to it. And it just really shocked me that, you know, kind of at some points, citizenship goes out the window when they know they're not being watched. And that is my fear, is that teachers are going to embrace AI, have these kids get on these tools, but with zero insight into what they're doing. And so they're not really knowing if the tools are actually working. And I think it's important to have that data in real time coming in. That was actually the reason I really dove into EdTech in the first place, right? The way that the data you get through Pear Deck or Nearpod, the data you got from Kahoot or Quizzes or Wayground, as it's called now. I love data because I love changing my approach to teaching in real time to meet the needs of the learners in front of me. And if you can't do that with the AI tools, I really don't find them useful. At least that's my opinion. What's your take on it?
Yeah, there's been a lot of debate on social media too. I don't know if you have seen, Joe. I know you sometimes are on social media, but I know sometimes you're like, okay, I just need to stay off of this. But on LinkedIn, there was some debate between, like, Matt Miller posted, and then there was another educator that posted. Matt's viewpoint was, you know, he thinks that you should be able to track, and he didn't really agree with Google's stance. But then there was another educator, and they did agree that with Google's stance and how we should not be tracking students. And my viewpoint is, I'm not using this as like an I got you kind of moment to look into your personal feelings. Like I'm an educator. I'm using these chats in School AI to check to see your understanding. Have you met the lesson objectives, right? And so I personally am using it more in an education sense and not like an SEL sense, I think. So I don't know if that's a difference. But for me, I want to know how my students are doing. And one way that we really do learn, you know, science has kind of shown us, is when we are having conversations. And so if I am chatting with Joe, or if I'm chatting with my friend Mike, or if I'm chatting with, you know, whoever, I sometimes will learn information a lot differently than I would through reading an article. So I have really enjoyed having my learning kind of be done through the spaces in School AI, because I had this activity where, like, the students could design a planet. And in this planet, right, like, I haven't taught fifth grade science. It's been years since I taught fifth grade science, or, you know, was a fifth grade student. And so I'm going through this and I'm like, oh yeah, atmosphere, you know, gravity. And so the chatbot's taking me through to help me build my own planet. And what's taking place in my brain, and, you know, I'm an adult, so I would love to see this with kids, but in my brain is I'm comparing my planet to Earth because I'm familiar with Earth. And so as I'm chatting with Dot, who's the School AI mascot, I'm having these conversations with Dot, and I'm like, okay, Dot, I want unicorns on my planet. So, you know, Dot's like, okay, let's add some unicorns. And then Dot asked me about the gravity. Do I want it heavier than Earth, or do I want it lighter than Earth? And I was like, oh, heavier than Earth. And then what it did is it generated an image using AI, and it showed these like pretty heavy unicorns with sturdy legs, like very sturdy legs. And I was like, well, my unicorns aren't flying. And Dot was like, yeah, because your gravity is so heavy. And so we were able to have a conversation, and I was able to use higher level thinking in that process to compare my unicorns compared to like what they would maybe be on Earth, or what I imagine, or what I've seen in videos of like unicorns on Earth. And so then I was like, oh, I need lighter gravity, right? And then the image recreated my image of my lighter unicorns flying, and, you know, it was exactly what I wanted. But it was just interesting having that type of learning experience compared to not having that image generator, not having that immediate feedback, not being able to ask questions about, well, what happens if I make it heavier? What happens if I make it lighter? And so I think for me, it's more about those learning outcomes. And as a teacher, I want to be able to know those insights that my students are having, so then I can step in and say, hey, we're really struggling with the gravity piece here. Let's do a mini lesson real quick. Just a reminder, on Earth, right? Our gravity is here. What do you guys think happens if we make it heavier? What do you think happens if we make it lighter? And that's where I'm able to step in and support my students' instruction.
No, and that is a fantastic example, right? To step in when you see the learning going off the rails, when you see the learning going in a direction that it's not supposed to go, like, oh, this class is completely misunderstanding what I just said. I got to course correct, right? That's what part of being a great teacher is. It's you have your lesson, but when things go awry, you have a way to kind of steer the ship back. And when you have a lesson that you're basically blind into what students are doing and how they're learning and what they're learning, you can't course correct, and you have to wait until it's over. And you know what? To me, that's going backwards. It's going back to the days of worksheets, where you hand these worksheets out to kids, you have them turn them in, and then you start grading them going, oh my goodness, they have no idea what they're doing. You lost a whole day of instruction because you had to wait for the data. And with technology tools, you don't have to wait for the data. And so to me, putting out a tool without giving the teacher the ability to redirect the lesson is really a missed opportunity. And, there's been quite a few people that have been vocal about it. You mentioned Matt Miller, right? But a lot of us also have the privilege of speaking to some of these engineers at Google, quite often. And that's one of the things I brought up. I said, teachers expect data when using ed tech tools. And if they're not getting it, especially in the age of AI, when they're already timid to use these tools, I fear that they're just not going to use them. And then, Google's going to be like, oh, these tools, we thought they were going to be popular, but they're not being used. They're all being turned off. Maybe this isn't the route we want to go, but it is the route we want to go. We just need data for all the reasons that you just said, Steph.
Yeah, and again, I don't know why the other person didn't think that, we needed that data, or why it shouldn't be visible. I'm not sure on those reasons. But for me, I think it's really important because I want to use that data to drive my instruction. Also, like SEL, like in School AI, if a student does say something about self-harm, I do get alerted. And so that to me is also kind of important, because then I can support that student. And like when I was in a school district, we used a system, and anytime a student like searched for something with self-harming or something like that, we got alerted. And we were able to deal with either the police, our guidance counselors, the parents, and we saved a couple lives of students that were thinking about committing suicide. And so that to me, I think is really important. It's also stressful, right? Like as someone trying to help these students, it can be stressful when you get these alerts, but they were able to get the help that they needed instead of, ending their life.
Yeah, I think that is a great point. We have found that students are more willing to open up to these chatbots than open up to a person. And those moments when they are open in that fashion, we need to be able to see it in real time, so that we can definitely refer them to somebody who could help them, like a counselor or learning director, a vice principal, somebody in that moment. I don't know. It's and you're talking about this other individual who said, like we shouldn't be, I don't say we're up in arms about it. I think we're just being logical, is what I think. I think we're being logical about how we have seen the patterns of educators really navigate towards tools that have real-time data. It's just what I've seen over the course of my career. And so having a tool that doesn't have real-time data, plus it being AI, I think could really be a point of contention for teachers. But this other individual was saying that, well, if we're teaching digital citizenship, then there shouldn't be anything wrong. Well, my number one thing isn't they're gonna misbehave. It's I want to see the learning in action. I want to see the class insights. I want to see what commonalities or misunderstandings are within the classroom. That's what I want to see. So it's not necessarily digital citizenship, but let's put it on digital citizenship. Digital citizenship and AI literacy are two different things. They can go hand in hand, but they're two different things. And so if students don't know how to speak to an AI tool, they're not going to get the best responses out of the AI tool. So I would love it to be a learning moment of, oh, you know what? Here's the prompt you put in. Maybe try asking it this way to pull the data out that you want, right? Because now you can be a guide in how to actually prompt these tools to do better responses. But if you don't have that insight, you're no longer teaching that AI literacy along the way. That's number one. But number two, to me, it's almost like saying, well, you know, this kid has been riding their bike on city streets for years. So why do they have to go to driver's training for their car? We should just give them keys. They're going to know what to do. Oh my goodness, it's a vastly different machine. You can't just do that. So I believe digital citizenship utilizing the tools we've been using is vastly different than digital citizenship while they're talking to an AI that they can then think is, you know, a real person at that point. So I just really think we need to pause a second and not be like we're degrading Google's decision, but we need to say, like, logistically, there is a reason why data makes teachers feel safer. And right now we should be in a teaching phase of AI, not just a using of AI. And without the data, we don't have that teaching aspect that we can do on a consistent basis.
Yeah, and it was also interesting because I did a session yesterday, and I didn't tell educators anything about mission control, which is where you can see the insights coming in school AI. And I just was like, okay, join this space. And they were going through, like, what are some awesome moments about school? What are some not awesome moments? And I set a timer for like 5 minutes, and they were just reflecting with a dot. And at the end, or halfway through, I started to read off some of the responses from my insights. You know, oh my gosh, I love this idea of, you know, you did a project and it just really resonated with you. Oh, you really struggled in school because you didn't connect with your teacher. And so I was reading them off, and then later we were talking, like, how did it feel to, you know, kind of start the lesson, that bell work activity in a space where you were just able to reflect on some of your learning and some of your moments in school. And one of the teachers was like, I didn't realize you were going to show our answers or use our answers. And so she was like, I would have responded differently if you would have told me that you were. And I think that's true for me, right? Like, if I know nobody else is going to be looking at something that I'm writing or something that I'm creating, I'm going to do a half-assed job on it. Where if I'm like, oh, I'm going to have an audience, I'm going to do a lot better with my responses. I'm going to take my time to make sure that they are thoughtfully crafted to support. And I think it's the same thing with our students. And that's why project-based learning is so effective, because at the end, they have some type of project that they have to show off to the class or some type of a hopefully authentic audience, like your community members. And I think, again, like, students put a lot more time and effort into things when we have that audience and we know somebody's like watching.
No, I 100% agree. 100% agree, especially our younger learners who can be a little bit wily at times. You know what I mean? Our fifth graders, sixth graders, seventh graders, eighth graders who are still learning, you know, kind of leaving that childhood behind and entering, you know, their, you know, teens and adulthood. They still need to be trained on how to speak kindly to people. And I truly think using AI and talking to it with kindness, talking to it with intention, talking to it with articulate questions and responses, I think that can easily translate over into how people speak to each other in the real world, right? And that is an onus on us to have them use these tools as if they are talking to an expert, if they're talking to another individual, and they should always be talking with kindness. And that is something I really emphasize to all the classes I push into, is I want you to say please and thank you, because we should always be kind, no matter if they're human or an AI chatbot. And they always do. They're always kind because I ask for them. But also because I'm watching the responses come in and I'm like, class, we're not being kind. Let's go ahead and say our pleases and thank yous. Just as a reminder, we should always be kind. And we can't do that if we don't have any data. So there's just so many benefits to having teachers have insights into student learning than not. And I just think it's a real big missed opportunity to release these products without giving the teachers the option to have that data coming in real time. And maybe it's coming down the road. Maybe if enough people say, hey, look, I love these tools, but I don't feel comfortable using them in class yet because we haven't had a proper time and training yet. Maybe they'll come down the road. But I just really think at this juncture, especially like our school, we've talked about before, we created an AIE Leadership Academy where our teachers have gone through 12 hours of training, and they're going to go back to their schools and help their other teachers navigate this stuff. But even though that we're going through this process of teaching, we are going to start the year with them turned off because we are not sure the students are ready to use them yet. And my fear is that too many schools are going to have it turned off, and Google's going to be like, uh-oh, did we make the right choice? And instead of getting rid of them, I hope they add the data section of it. But I think that's why my school is going to use School AI, because they don't trust that the Spaces or the GEMS or the Notebook LM is going to give them enough information to guide their teaching and learning practices.
Yeah, and I mean, what I love too is it's focused on the lesson objectives, because when you go in, you create these agendas. And now with School AI's updates, it's not just showing your knowledge in one way, right? I'm able to demonstrate my knowledge in a ton of ways. Having those conversations with Dot is one way. But now with Power-Ups, I can use a mind map. I can use that image generator that I talked about earlier with my planet. I can use the doodle board, right? There's so many options now where students are able to take that learning and it's in one kind of flow for them to experience. Oh, I didn't realize I could go in and kind of have a conversation or a thought about how I might think about learning in a whole new way. And so that's kind of where I'm excited. And I think for me as a student, I was sometimes shy to speak up because I didn't want to be wrong. And so now students can gain the confidence by starting off in a quick think with a chatbot. And then you're able to have a classroom discussion where they share out their ideas. So I just feel like so many ideas here.
So many, bell ringers, right? Exit tickets. Just the way we used to use Flipgrid, right? As, hey, give me a rundown of what you learned today. But then the teacher would like, oh, I don't want to watch all of these, With a Space, you can do that and see the entire class insights to see, okay, this is what they got. This is where we need to do a little bit more reteaching tomorrow. That's important. Now, I want our listeners to know, because I know some of them are probably saying, oh my goodness, this is not a really genuine talk because Steph works for School AI and they're trying to push people to buy more School AI. Listen, people. Listen, my friends. That's not what this conversation is about. If the conversation is about right now, there are some teachers that are like, I'm not using AI, right? There's other teachers like, I'd love to use AI, but I want to be able to train my kids. And then there's others that are like, I don't care. I'm going to have them use it no matter what. And that's great. But to me, data is supreme. Data is super important to guide instruction. And that is the reason I gravitated towards educational technology tools, is because of the data for instant alteration of my lessons. And when you take away my number one reason for using an ed tech tool, I don't really want to use it in class. And so this isn't about, we don't agree with Google, they don't have data, don't use it, go to School AI. That is not what this conversation is about. In my opinion, if you want to go to Magic School and use Magic Student, they have great data as well. It's about the data that is being received. It is not about the tool. So this is not a selling point for School AI. This is a selling point for, hey, Google, show me the data. Show me the data and we'll make gems sparkle. That's what this is about. So I just wanted to clear that up so our listeners aren't like, is this just a giant commercial for School AI?
Yeah, for sure. And again, it comes down to the students learning, right? And that's what we're here as educators to do, is to support student learning. And if I don't know the insights coming in from my students, I can't support them. And I can't support them fast enough either, right? Like, I think that's another important thing is with technology, you get that feedback immediately. Where in other cases, I have to collect all the papers. I can't see their thinking in the moment. I'm like, oh, what's going on? And I can use those insights to really help drive my instruction.
No, and that's key. Insights are key. They're called insights for a reason. You get to look in and view what is working and what is not, and make those course corrections along the way. And that's what is absolutely needed. I don't think there's ever been an ed tech tool I've used where I did not use that strategy. I'm really racking my brain, because even when I use Google Slides, I did a whole class collaborative Google Slide, and I can go and see everybody working in real time to make sure they're actually on task or doing it correctly. There's never been a time that I didn't have a view of the learning in progress. And when you take that away, it just makes me uncomfortable. And to me, as a veteran technology user, if it makes me uncomfortable, I could only imagine a teacher who's like, ooh, I don't know about this AI stuff. What do you mean I can't see what my kids are doing? Oh, no, then I'm definitely not going to use it. That's what worries me, is that it'll set back AI in the classroom more than it's going to push it forward without the data.
Yeah, for sure. So we want to hear your thoughts, right? Like, what are you thinking? How are you supporting your students' learning? Are you like, oh, I need those insights? Are you one that's like on that opposite side? Maybe you can push back at us and let us know why that might be the case. But how are you using the insights that come to you from students, either with AI or without AI? And how are you driving your instruction with it?
Yeah, and we would really love to hear maybe some innovative ways you are using AI in your classroom, whether you're utilizing the AI tools in Canva, the AI tools in Adobe Express, maybe the AI tools for your own personal amplification of your own work. And definitely, how are you using it with kids in the classroom? We want to hear, because, we can only get better together. And I know that statement has been said over and over and over again, but it's true, because education is a collaborative sport. And if we're doing it alone, we're doing it wrong. So share. We'd love to share some of the stories and activities of who you are and what you're doing, so that we can amplify you and your practices, and we can learn and grow together.
All right, everyone. So again, you've got that action step, and let us know what you think, and have a great week. We can't wait to talk to you next time.
All right, bye, everybody.